Okay, cool. So let's see. Let's start. What is a problem that you are trying to solve?
Remote sensing misses basically half of the ocean on any given day.
And why is that important? Like, why do we need remote sensing?
Weather comes from the ocean. Everything comes from the ocean. So if you want to measure wind speed over Minneapolis, or you want to know whether it's going to snow in the Alps, you've got to know what's happening on the surface of the ocean in the previous couple of weeks. So you can't measure temperature, you can't measure wind directly from space. You can infer it. And when you can measure it from space, it's often 2 or 3 days old. Yeah, so remote sensing misses over basically half of what's going on the surface of the ocean in any given day. And a lot of the variables are very, very difficult to measure from space if they're measurable at all. And basically all the weather around the world, from whether it's going to rain in Minneapolis, whether it's going to snow in the Alps, whether it's going to be windy in Florida, all comes back from measuring what's going on the Earth's surface. And right now, the data that you get from the Earth's surface, from the ocean surface, is patchy at best.
Awesome. How did you come to work on this problem?
So initially, we were working on a NOAA Phase 2 grant together. The mandate there was basically for us to build an affordable, a modular water quality monitoring platform that would serve the needs of citizen scientists. So we built the KSB, the Kelp Smart Buoy, as basically exactly that, sensor agnostic hosted payload platform. And the point of that was to be able to work with as many different sensors as possible. So once we started looking for customers, we started to get some surprising requests for sensors. One of the most memorable requests was from Lockheed Martin. They basically asked us if, hey, can you host a sensor that will detect missiles flying over the water? So once we started researching that problem, we found out that not only was the answer yes, we can do that. It turned out that sensors mounted on buoys were the most efficient way to do that and track threats moving on and over the ocean surface. So that's, I think, the meandering path for how we got to doing this.
Awesome. Cool. And tell us about a time when you struggled or had a failure, and what did you learn about it?
Yeah. It's funny, we were talking about this earlier, about trying to figure out what are the hardest things that we've done. I think one of the most depressing things was writing proposals and getting turned down. We sent in 5 NOAA proposals last year, and they all got shot down. And with ridiculously high scores, they still didn't get funded. And that was just the amount of work that we put into writing those things. And they were beautiful proposals, and we didn't get them. And then the other thing that we struggled with, and it's not really the struggle, but again, it's the use of time, is fundraising. We've spent so much time fundraising, talking to venture capitalists, talking to angel investors, talking to everybody, and the same thing, you do all of that work and almost all of it goes nowhere. And part of that is, while we're fundraising, we're not working on our buoy systems. So it's just difficult, and yeah, it's time consuming. And I think that's the biggest struggle we've had.
Yeah. Who's your ideal customer?
We have a couple customer sets. We are a dual use platform. So there are different shapes of like dream customers. On the government side, there's the wealth of government people is the size of a country. I think very broadly, there are signal intelligence and maritime domain awareness customers throughout the government. To name a few organizations, there's INDOPACOM, PACFleet, NAVOR, NORAD, NORTHCOM. The list goes on and on. There are lots of acronyms filled with people who need the type of data we can deliver. On the commercial side, we are looking at there's again also a huge variety of commercial markets. The ones we want to go after first are marine researchers and scientists, as well as weather forecasters and climate scientists. Oh yeah, one of the other things is we have a call tomorrow with a local port as well.
But yeah, why are you and your team the right people to be solving this?
Okay. Well, there's, we won't go into technical capabilities. I've got a PhD in ocean engineering. Costas has got 2 degrees in marine engineering,
Marine science,
yeah, and astrophysics. So, so we make a perfect team. We've got Costas is ridiculously smart. He's unbelievably dedicated, endless energy. As you can see, I'm ridiculously older, maybe somewhat wiser, but I've got a lot of experience in this world. So I taught engineering at college, which means I've got a Rolodex a mile long of former students and colleagues. It's just an amazing availability of contacts. And then I think the other thing that really helps is we are both exceptionally optimistic. And I do not think you can have a startup without always being and wishing for the best.
Definitely. Yeah, what a great team. Let's see, how is your product or service 10 times better than what's already out there?
I think the cheeky answer is there's nothing like this. That's why it's better. I think the more thoughtful answer is we are using, okay, we're getting maritime data, but we're doing it in a way that is intended to make us a monopoly. We're doing it in a way that no one else is doing. We're basically using buoys to do the job of a satellite. That's why we're better. No one else has a platform that can do this. No one else has a data infrastructure that can build the data products that we're building.
Yeah, so first and best ones. That's great. What is your business model? How do you make money?
Our business model is really simple. We are going to deploy buoys as fast as possible using our DoD contracts. We are going to gather vast amounts of persistent data about the ocean. And the way we're going to make money is we can sell subscriptions to those data feeds, and we can resell the aggregated data.
Cool. Tell us about your traction. What are your sales, users, retention?
Yeah, so we've worked with NOAA, we've worked with Northrop Grumman. Those are our first customers. And there's some other agencies that we're not allowed to name right now, but hopefully
soon. Right now, we've been working on this for a year or so, and right now we're going into customer discovery. This is the next phase of our business, and we're getting really positive feedback from everybody we talk to. And awesome. We're getting an awful lot of feedback on how our product can be better as well, which is really useful.
Cool, nice. What is the market that you're addressing?
Oh, there's two. I think we kind of addressed this a little bit earlier, but there's two. We're a dual use platform, which means we've got two parallel markets. We've got the government, particularly in maritime domain awareness, which largely revolves around missile detection systems, but it also revolves around ships, submarines to some extent, and then there's also sort of a homeland security avenue there as well for anti-drug smuggling, anti-human smuggling, things like that. And then there's the commercial side of things, which we sort of hinted at earlier too, which is weather forecasting, climate science, ports and harbors, aquaculture, which is going to be enormous over the next 10, 20 years. Renewable energy farms. People are putting out wind farms, current farms, wave farms. They all need either baseline monitoring, or they need security, or just monitoring the conditions around those, and we're perfectly placed to do all of those.
Wow, so many cool potential markets. That's awesome. What is your vision for the future of the industry?
I think the vision for the future here is that right now, as we all know, the climate is changing, and that makes it even more difficult to observe the ocean surface and know what's going on there. And right now, there's really not much IoT in the ocean. There's smart buoys that are focused on really specific sensors, but that's about it. There's no platform that can just open access and just break open the wealth of data that's on the ocean surface. So with that, again, the climate's changing. It's already difficult to measure what's happening on the ocean surface. Again, satellites miss over half of it every single day. And as the climate changes and the weather becomes more erratic, it becomes even more difficult to measure the drivers of global weather and just global environmental conditions. So in a couple of years, not everyone agrees with us on this, but in a couple of years, we think that the only companies that are able to navigate the world and the only navies that will be able to safely navigate the ocean will be the ones using our data. That's what we think the future looks like. It's scary, but we're building the tools we need to get through it.
Great, great. And then what are some obstacles that you foresee in the near future?
From a business standpoint, the biggest obstacle we faced over the last year, and one that we probably will face over the next 6 months, is funding. But we see vast opportunities for us in the next few months. Our pipeline is well filled right now, and it's not an imaginary, pipeline full of wishful thinking. These are people we're actually in serious negotiations with right now. The other obstacle that we have faced and we are going to be facing is dealing with the DoD. Everyone told us at the beginning that this would be a very hard road to do. They told us it would take us about a year to start reaching the right people, and that's been accurate to within about a month. And we're finally making the contacts, and we're starting on the contracting with DoD contacts right now.
Nice, interesting. Okay, let's see. What is your long-term vision for the business? So 5 years up to maybe 50 years.
We built this business because we believe that our survival as a species depends on our ability to understand the ocean. And fundamentally, today, we just, again, as a species, do not have the tools to do that properly. So over the next 3 to 5 years, we are building the tools and the data infrastructure we need to remove that uncertainty from the question of whether we'll be able to live on Earth.
Wow, that's crazy to think about. That's really cool. Let's see, potential exits for your business. So
we've got a number of potential exits. The two that we think are the highest is one, there's a really clear path to an IPO for us. With this change in climate data, it just makes it hard to gather remote measurements. So ocean data is going to be critical to everything, to governments, large companies. Everybody depends on ocean data, even if they don't realize it. The other possibility for an exit is for us to sell in the next 3 to 5 years, either to one of the larger defense primes or to a smaller defense prime. And there's precedent for this as well. Anduril bought Dive Technologies, and these guys build hosted payload platforms for maritime intelligence too. They're in submarines, they're not on the surface. So those are our two potential exit strategies.
Why have you chosen to raise via equity crowdfunding versus other more traditional methods?
One of the things we did this for is it's an experiment, right? We've tried lots of different ways to raise money. This one seemed like a really interesting one. And a couple of things we really like about it is we get immediate feedback and guidance from people with experience in space. And because we're approaching the maritime domain like the space domain, a lot of those things cross over to the way we're doing our business, and that's been really useful. The other thing we really liked about space ventures and crowdfunding in general is it reaches people who get it, who get us. we would spend time with traditional VCs where you'd have to get them up to speed about marine science and about the marine world, about ocean data and things like that. But by opening us up to a whole world of potential investors, you're immediately going to reach the investors that are in that world. And we don't have to convince them of our business model and the need for our data.
What brought you to us, and how do you intend to use the money raised?
For us, we're building off of a really mature product. The hardware, the buoys and the enterprise software, the ocean data dashboards, don't require any more development to start serving customers. They're pretty much good to go out of the box. What we need now is to actually just get the stuff we've built into customers' hands. And as we do that, to build the data infrastructure we need to maintain and feed into these big data products that cover the scale of Earth. So to do that, we're going to use the funds to hire a business development specialist and also a large-scale data engineer.
Anything you would like to say to investors who are on the fence?
So one of the concerns we get from one of the concerns we hear from investors a lot is that we're too hardware focused and we're too focused on government customers. So I'll answer these in kind of in order. While it does look like a hardware play at first glance, our plan is to follow in the footsteps of Earth observing platforms in space, like Spire and Planet Labs. So again, just like these guys did, in the near term, while we're an early stage customer, we're deploying our sensor infrastructure. So yeah, we have to deal with hardware, but this ultimately lets us offer and maintain comprehensive ocean data as a service, which does not exist today. To answer and kind of preempt the question about dealing with the government, this is one of the other reasons we're applying a space-leaning business model to the ocean. So just like Spire and Planet Labs, rideshare payloads for government customers who are traditionally a little more willing to foot the bill for hardware infrastructure. We're also doing the same thing with our smart buoys. So we can rideshare payloads for government customers and use that to deploy hundreds of thousands of buoys onto the ocean surface. And once we've done that, by ride sharing commercially valuable sensors, we can leapfrog other commercial ocean data competitors literally in a matter of weeks. It's, again, admittedly, it's a longer way to get started, but as soon as we get even a medium-sized government contract, we pretty much instantly become hyper competitive in commercial markets.
Nice. Let's see, what's a fun fact about you or your company?
I got a couple of these.
Okay.
So when we had our first ever business development meeting, which was in my back garden with John about a year ago, one of the things we needed to do was come up with some names of things that we were building. And you can see behind me, we've got two buoys here, the sonar buoy one, which is the white one, and the big yellow one in the back. And for want of a better term, we named them the BYFT and the SBFT. And that stands for the big yellow floaty thing and the small black floaty thing. Now they've been turned into the KSBs, which are the Kelp Smart Buoys. Another a fun fact is we apparently have developed homing buoys as well, because on one of our very, very first ocean deployments, when we were younger and not quite as experienced in ocean deployments, one of our buoys broke free from its moorings and shortly thereafter lost its communications as well. So we just wrote it off as like, oh, that's the price of doing business in the ocean. Mm-hmm. About 4 months later, and after about 150 miles at sea, the buoy washed up about a mile away from where we're sitting right now. So we just drove down to the beach, picked it up and brought it home. So, and that's actually, I believe it's this boy.
It is actually that one. It is this actual buoy.
So this is our favorite buoy. It comes home.
We do not leave it in open water anymore.
Yeah,
Oh my
The other
God.
ones, yes, but this one's special now.
yeah.
It's like a pet. It knows
It's
its
our
way.
pet. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the one we take to conferences. This is the one that's
That's
gonna go in the
amazing.
museum when we're huge.
That's such a fun story. Cool. Okay, last one. What do you do for fun when you're not working?
I try to maximize my time on my surfboard and also my skimboard. That's what I do with my free time.
Nice.
You also build
Oh,
weather balloons.
I
and
build
you
lots
build
of robots
drones
and
robots
stuff.
and-
Yeah, I don't know. I count that more as like practicing for this, but I build a bunch of robots too.
Yeah.
I take care of aquariums and I got a bunch of coral tanks.
So
But
cool.
yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff. I got out of the water this morning, so that's why I'm thinking about surfing.
Me, I try to surf as much as I can. It's nowhere near as much as I used to when I was younger. But I have two young boys, so I spend a lot of time. I coach their soccer teams, which is really, really fun and entertaining. And for fun for myself, I get beaten up trying to do jujitsu. So that's
Awesome. Where are you guys located?
our office is in San Clemente in Orange County, California.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I live in Encinitas, which is about a 20-minute drive, 30-minute drive south of us.
And I live in Tributo Canyon, which is a 30-minute drive north of us.
Nice. So perfect environment for the surfing and the outdoor activities. Love it.